Hello, welcome to my channel, or welcome back. I hope you're all doing well today. I have a message for you regarding how you're being perceived right now. And this could be people in your day-to-day life, it could be people who are seeing you online, or maybe even just strangers on the street. Just how people are reacting when they see you. And I get the sense you're being perceived hard. There's a lot of eyes on you. So maybe let's draw one card to see the energy that you're in right now. Ooh, the Emperor. Okay, wonderful. So you're really at the top of your game right now, and you've really stepped up to your throne, and I feel like it almost commands a natural respect from people when they see you. And it's because of this energy you embody. So maybe you did get some sort of role or position recently that really made you feel like a boss, or it could just be that you're embodying this boss energy in your day-to-day life. So maybe you're someone who owns their own business, or you're kind of a self-starter, a self-employed artist, or something like that. And I feel like this really commands the respect of people around you because you don't necessarily have this feeling of like, I need to defer to anyone, I need to be led by anyone. It's more like you have this natural leadership, and I think it almost puts people at ease in a way where when they're around you, it almost feels like they can kind of feel comforted and feel led. But I think you also empower other people. It's not necessarily like you have this kind of feeling of wanting to dominate others. It's more like you empower people to be their own emperors as well. All right, let's draw one card to see the general energy of the people who are perceiving you right now. All right, we have strength. Ooh, okay, so I feel like you have some valuable allies watching you right now. These people who are very strong in their own way. And I think it's almost this feeling because you've commanded your own strength, other people can perceive you and understand what it took for you to get to that level. And so people who have walked the same path understand that this was a really long trial for you, and that the strength that it takes to be really compassionate and powerful and just is really something that needs to be rewarded and applauded. So I feel like these people are really looking at you as a sort of sense of like admiration, but also like kind of like a kinship of almost like real recognized real is what I'm getting. And I feel like these people also, there's this really strong compassionate energy where maybe in the past, if you felt like people around you were criticizing you, I feel like now the people who are around you and who are watching you, it's almost more like they're just applauding what you've done. And it really lacks that critical kind of feeling of like, oh, you're different than me, I don't really like you. Like, I feel like that is something that you've left in the past a long time ago, and now everyone around you kind of has accepted you into the fold in a way. All right, let's draw another card on that. Maybe on the relationships that you have to these people. Okay, we have the Queen of Wands. Okay, so I feel like you're someone who really feels like they would give good advice in a situation. Like, I feel like when people come to you, it's because they know that you're going to respond in a way that is going to feel really affirming, but also give them some guidance and give them some reassurance. Like, I feel like you kind of turn people's eyes to something, like, towards the light. Like, you're a very optimistic person, and you help to make other people see the silver lining in things, or see the bright side of things. Where if maybe someone comes to you with a problem that they have, or a difficult emotion that they were feeling, I feel like you're really good at being able to point them in the direction that might show them how this could be a really good learning opportunity for them, or how it wasn't actually like a bad thing at all, but it was actually like a blessing in disguise maybe. Or just being able to show people that life is worth living and like just giving them this general encouragement and positivity. And I feel like this is really why people come to you. It's almost like this kind of guaranteed feeling that they know when they talk to you about a problem, you're going to be able to turn it into something that is really a healing experience for them. All right, and then we have the Six of Pentacles. And again, this is this feeling of generosity, and I feel like you're someone who's really generous, maybe with your time in some ways, but not necessarily overgiving. It's because when you have this sort of wealth, like if you have excess time, you'll be generous with it. Like maybe if you're in some situation where you've been held up and it's not like you can really go anywhere, like maybe you're waiting for the bus and someone comes to talk to you, I feel like you're able to give away your time in that sense because you understand that it's not taking anything away from you, but it's maybe not like you're going out of your way to like be on like 4-hour phone calls with everyone who wants to talk to you all the time. And there's this generosity in your words as well, where I feel like you're not necessarily so harsh all the time, and you are very willing to give compliments and reassuring words to people, where maybe some people would withhold their compliments because they don't want to be like too nice to someone. I feel like you're not that type of person at all. I feel like it's more like you're generous because when these things spring up in you, it's almost like you have nowhere else to put them, right? Like if you notice something about someone and like maybe they're dressed really well, or they just have like a nice voice, or there's something about them that you really like, it doesn't take anything from you to give that compliment to them. And if you hold that compliment inside yourself, there's going to be no one else to give it to because it was meant for them. So I feel like you're generous in that way of like when something springs up that could maybe brighten someone's day, you just kind of let it out. You don't really stifle it. You're not really worried about how I'll be perceived. Do I feel like if I'm giving something to other people, will I be perceived as needy? But it's not like that. It's because you're not looking for anything in exchange. It's because you're already on your throne and you're already like in this position of having the wealthy merchant, and you have this scale too. Here's like the balance where you're able to balance like, what do I have that I'm able to give to other people, and what is something that I need to keep me in this position of power? And I feel like that's something you've really been working through recently. All right, it's looking good. I feel like this is a very optimistic spread so far. All right. Ooh, the tower. Wait, I take it back. No, just kidding. I feel like you're someone who makes towers fall in people's lives. Like, sometimes people have these really strong convictions that they've held for a long time, but these convictions don't actually serve them. Like, you can almost see that it's detrimental, or it's just leading them off the path in a way, or not allowing someone to see something clearly. And I feel like you're someone who's really able to tear those towers down instantly. And like, it could be a conviction that someone's held on to for many years and like formed since childhood, and specifically relating to some sort of feeling that they have about themselves or their place in the world or how the world works. And I feel like even with a single sentence, you can shift someone's point of view on it to the point where the whole tower falls, where like maybe they've built up years of their life or certain relationships on this tower, and I feel like you're able to just tear it down instantly. So for a more concrete example, maybe someone who feels like the need for attention is a bad thing, and maybe why this was formed is that their caretakers in their early years didn't give them a lot of attention, or maybe seemed annoyed when this person asked for attention. So now in adulthood, this person hates to be the center of attention, and they might even criticize others for it. Like maybe using the term attention whore, or like thinking like if you display yourself publicly in any way, like if you want to be on stage, if you're posting on social media, this is a bad thing because you shouldn't want attention. The desire for attention is a bad thing. But I feel like you could really easily make this tower fall on someone by saying like, if you have this ambition of like being a public figure, of being a famous artist or anything like that, it's really important that you be seen. Like it's essential. You can't hide yourself. I mean, even if you're a faceless artist or like you cultivate an air of mystique, there's still this public persona that you have to put out into the world, even if it is a mysterious and masked persona. So I feel like you can really shift people's perspective in this way of maybe healing some things that maybe held them back in the past, just because you can show them an optimistic side of things. Like in the example that I cited, like it's not like you want attention because you need the validation to like feel good about yourself or anything. It's more just like the attention is a byproduct, and in fact the fear of wanting attention is what's holding you back from taking the steps that you might need to help you on your path. All right, let's draw another card about the type of people who are perceiving you right now. Ooh, okay, we have the Seven of Pentacles here. Okay, so I feel like these people are kind of, like this person is just watching, just waiting. And I feel like the people who are watching you right now, it's almost like maybe a lot of these people are not necessarily doing anything for themselves at the moment. It could almost be like they're diverting their attention to you almost as a role model, is the sense that I'm getting, where it's not necessarily like they're just watching you because they're a fan or anything, and it's not like they're watching you because they're like a creepy stalker either. I think it's almost like they're watching you because they're inspired to see how you've grown over the years, and maybe some of these people are people who've seen you change over time as well. And it's sort of like wondering, how did you ascend to this emperor position? And it's like they're taking notes and they kind of want to replicate this in their own life as well. So it is really this feeling of like observation and trying to figure something out by watching you and looking at you. All right, let's draw another card on what makes you so intriguing to watch. Ooh, the High Priestess. So I feel like you do have this energy of like, yeah, something a little bit mystical to you, where I feel like you're kind of in touch with something that other people might not be in touch with, or they're just not in touch with it to the same degree. And I feel like you can really cite a tradition that you've been working in as well, where it's like you understand that you're not just like one person in the world, but you're kind of standing on the shoulders of giants. So I feel like you can kind of cite certain things from different texts or histories or traditions, or like a specific, just like a story, maybe from mythology or something, that almost serves to illuminate what you're trying to do with your life or your stance on a certain topic or something like that, where people can tell that you haven't necessarily formed these opinions just based on things that you've inherited from your parents, or like a snap judgment, or just like making something up on the spot because you want to fit into a group or something. It's more like you have formed your convictions through a really long period of time and really thought critically about the things that you're expressing in the world. And I feel like this is something that people really commend, because you can kind of tell when someone is talking about a topic they don't really understand. And one could even say that to talk about a topic you don't understand as if you understood it is a form of lying. And I feel like this is something that you don't do too often. It is in our human nature to tell lies, and often it's a little bit mistaken. Like sometimes we don't even know we're lying. But I feel like you are someone who really intentionally avoids lying as much as you can. And you kind of have this humble sense of being able to admit when you don't necessarily know something, or being able to admit when it's impossible to know something, where it's almost like you either have to just accept during this lifetime that you'll never know all the answers, or maybe that you haven't discovered the answers yet, you're not far enough on your path. I think you're not someone who just claims to know everything, because the High Priestess is someone who genuinely does have a lot of wisdom, but then she also has these religious symbols associated with her that almost speak to like a higher power, where it's almost like acknowledging that because you are a human, you can't necessarily know all these answers, and you can't really posture on things that you could never hope to understand. All right, another card on what makes you so interesting. Okay, we have the Seven of Swords here. Ooh, another seven coming out. And I feel like this is this feeling again of like you have like almost an excess. Like it's almost like you have more than you know what to do with. And it's also this feeling of kind of being a little bit sneaky, of it almost looks like a theft is taking place in this card. And I feel like you're someone who's able to just pick things up from your environment all the time. And specifically, like, maybe less relating to physical objects. Like, I'm not saying you're a kleptomaniac, but you just sort of glean bits of information and wisdom and new knowledge just everywhere you go. And it almost feels like you're kind of overflowing with knowledge now at this point, where it's almost like you have this really developed skill set and a really developed fields of knowledge as well, where maybe some people almost feel like they're lacking in certain departments, where you try to have a conversation with them, and like I mentioned, you can tell that they don't really have a strong understanding of these topics, even if they claim it to be like something that they really hold as a strong conviction or something that's really important to them. But I feel like you're someone who actually genuinely does have like a really wealthy sort of source of inner knowledge and inner strength. And I feel like it's because of your ability to pick things up all the time from the world. It's like any conversation that you have, you're picking up new threads of knowledge, new ways of seeing the world. In any environment, you're learning a lot more about the environment. Like if you go into a building and it's maybe an older building, like a bar that has been open for like 50 years or something like that, you're looking at all the things on the walls and the story that this place has to tell. Or maybe if you go somewhere and it's kind of an old botanical garden or something, and you can look at the trees and see like these trees were planted like 50 years ago and these ones are like planted 20 years ago, and it's like you're learning new things all the time. And this knowledge, even if it may seem kind of insignificant at the time of like, it's not like I could necessarily put this in a book or like tell anyone the specific thing that I've observed, and it's not like it's going to be immediately important to them, but it's the fact that you have these observational skills that leads you to be able to pick up knowledge from any situation. And I think people can tell this about you, where it's almost like if you were in a place and someone felt kind of confused or lost, you're kind of the first person that they would go to. Like you kind of have all the answers is the vibe I'm getting. All right, and then we have the Ace of Cups here. So I feel like you just are really like, yeah, like a fountain almost that people could drink from, in the sense of like, again, like having it all, where if someone felt like they were deprived in some way, they would be able to come to you, and it's almost like just like having a sip from a water fountain that's very refreshing, is this feeling of like immediately being refreshed upon being given some sort of guidance. And I also feel like this really relates to like an emotional expression as well, where I feel like if people maybe felt like out of touch with their emotions or deprived of some sort of emotional support, I feel like you're someone who is really ready and willing to offer this to people, in the sense that yeah, like I'm thinking of a fountain that people come to, is sort of the sense that I'm getting, where it's like when people are really in that need, where maybe they're in the desert or they've stumbled across this fountain in the middle of a forest, is kind of what I'm seeing. It's like they know where to go, and by coming to you, they're able to get something out of that. All right, and we have the Star here. And again, with this feeling of water and something being poured, and a little bit of mystique in this as well. And it's this feeling of like revitalization, and this flowing sense, where I guess I get the sense that you're kind of always in the flow, where it doesn't necessarily feel like you are starting and stopping all the time. It's more like there's just kind of this natural river, and you're kind of just floating down in it. Um, so that people, when they see you, it's almost like this kind of stunned feeling. Like, imagine if you had walked into a forest and you had seen this mystical forest creature just drinking out of a spring or something like that. Like, I think that's how people see you, is like, oh, it's just so amazing how you can naturally exist in the world in this really peaceful and harmonious way. And you really pour into yourself as well. It's this feeling of like a river of emotion, or a river of calm, that you're kind of cultivating within yourself. And it's almost this interesting feeling of scale as well, where it's almost like, I think I'm getting the sense that you're larger than life, is how people see you, is like, um, yeah, like you almost embody something that is bigger than just yourself. And I think you have a really strong sense of personality, but it's also something that has built up. Like I said, we're standing on the shoulders of giants. It's like this feeling of you're building on something that has already existed. So it is this humbling again of like, I don't necessarily claim to have all the answers, or like, you wouldn't claim that you are, the most developed person ever, or that you're better than anyone else or anything like that. But I feel like you really are able to just improve on things in the world, and you're really have a strong sense of like understanding where your strengths are and how you can build on those and really play them up. And I think that this is what gives you this strong sense of personality, where when people have a weaker sense of personality, it's almost like they're not playing into their own strengths, or they're trying to wear a mask that was meant for someone else. But I think when you reflect on yourself, and through different historical figures or mythological figures, maybe even fictional characters that resonate with you from contemporary days, you can kind of see like, where are the strengths in my personality and how can I allow those to shine? And I think that when you do this, it gives you that kind of larger than life feeling, where you just feel really, you look really self-assured and confident, and in your emperor energy for sure. All right, let's draw a card on like, if a stranger just encountered you, what would be the first thing that they notice? Ooh, the moon. Okay, again, we have the water here. And I feel like the first thing that someone notices about you is this really natural connection to the world, and a sort of playfulness as well. Like, I think you're really connected to your animal nature, where I think people don't necessarily see you and think that you look uncomfortable in your body, or that you feel disconnected from the world. I think it's like this feeling of like intense harmony when they see you, of like, oh, you really look at peace. You feel like you're in the right place for you. And it almost, yeah, has this feeling of naturalness, where it's almost like if you had walked onto a movie set, and it's like you're already in costume, like you're already in character. And maybe a stranger who's coming to you, it almost feels like maybe they're like a crew member or something like that, where it's like they don't quite fit in, but they see you being at one with the world around you, and it almost inspires them to try to get to this point a little bit more. All right, and let's draw a card on people who have known you for a long time and what they're thinking about you. Ooh, the Hanged Man. Oh, this feeling of suspense. So, I think it is kind of almost the suspense of like seeing you get to this point where you've grown so much, and it really is kind of like, oh, what's gonna happen next? Like, it's almost a little bit, I wouldn't call it nerve wracking, but there's definitely this feeling of anticipation of maybe what sort of things you'll be able to achieve in your life now that you've gotten to this point. And I feel like you really have gotten to the point of being suspended maybe between two worlds is almost the sense I'm getting of like maybe before you were operating more in this ego-based kind of human day-to-day existence, but I feel like now you've kind of been lifted up towards the heavens a little bit in a sense, and you have this stronger connection with this spiritual feeling, this side of yourself, and this kind of greater connection to the universe. And I feel like you're still in between those worlds, and it's like people are waiting to see if you'll drop back down, or maybe if you'll transform into something that is able to fly up into the heavens. So I feel like it is almost, maybe people are like almost a little worried about you in a sense of like, it's such a surprising transformation that you've undergone. It's almost this feeling of not really knowing what's going to happen next. And I think it is this feeling of like not knowing, like again, like even with this, like the high priestess, like I mentioned, of like not being able to know all the secrets, and with the hanged man of this feeling of like um, yeah, not knowing if something is going to be able to cut you down, right? Like the hanged man is fully isolated. It's almost like a situation that almost feels like impossible, where it's like no one could predict what is going to happen next because it's kind of something that comes out of left field. So I feel like maybe people are trying to hatch predictions about you, like, oh, is someone going to come and save this hanged man from being in the tree, or is someone is he just going to stay up there and fall? But it's like, no, you actually don't know what could happen. There's the people who are trying to predict things about you are not able to see things. So maybe if you have people in your life who have been giving you predictions in the past of like, this is where you're going to be in your career, this is where you're going to be 5 years from now, this is how your life is going to look like, that maybe you could kind of dismiss some of those opinions, even if they are the voices of people that you really trust. It's this feeling of just not being able to predict anything, so that if someone really gave you a strong prediction, that maybe you only take it with a grain of salt, or maybe they're able to see the logical outcomes of certain patterns of behavior, but they also are not able to see the outcomes of any sort of transformative change that may occur in you, right? Like, of course, if you kept up certain patterns of behavior, your fate will be a certain way, but these transformations are of a nature that can't be predicted and can't be categorized, and it's such an individual journey that your own transformation is going to be unlike anything that has happened before. All right, and now let's draw a card maybe on people who are kind of watching you from the shadows, where maybe you don't really know them, but they know you. Okay, we have the Four of Wands here. So I feel like it's this feeling of almost being left out from the party, or maybe these people feel like, I think they assume that your life is just like all fun and games and you really have an easy life. And it's almost like they want, again, like to know how to get to that level or to get let into your party. It's almost like they just see you from afar is really the sense I'm getting. And it's almost this gate that people feel like they have to pass through in order to reach this point, which it is true. There is this sort of threshold where when people cross it, then they're initiated into a sort of new way of being. And I think that people are really looking towards you for maybe some guidance and assistance through this threshold, because it is like a really challenging journey. And like with the strength card that came up, like there is a large degree of strength and this knowledge that's required to pass through the threshold. So I feel like you definitely come off as someone who has a lot of knowledge about these sorts of things, and just knowledge about the world in general that gives people this really reassuring and sort of like a point that they want to get to. Like I think you're a lot of people's ambition in a sense, whether that's the ambition to have you in their life or the ambition to become more like you. All right, now let's draw a card on just the perceptions that maybe like a kind of more a general perception. Maybe there's not any individual person. All right, we have the Ace of Swords here. So I feel like there's this general perception of you as being someone who is very empowered again, like, right? You hold the power in your hands. And I feel like you're also someone who is at the beginning of a journey. So I feel like there's, yeah, definitely this feeling of being at the start of something, where I think you've crossed into something new and you're either just starting something or you're about to begin something new. And it's almost like there's a lot of possibilities for you, but I think that you are now realizing the path. I think is like this is the beginning of your path, where it was kind of like, if you imagine like a path that goes through a forest and a mountain and a cave and all that, and then there's like maybe a little clearing before the path starts, like, you know, when you go on a hike and there's this little trail guide and it has the map and all that stuff and the bugs you have to worry about and don't walk in the poison ivy, right? I think you were still kind of in that starting zone, right? Or maybe you had been walking in circles a little bit and you thought you were making progress, but really you were just in a preparation stage. And I feel like recently you have just started onto the path, or you're just about to start onto it. And it's this feeling of like a really long journey, but also like a feeling of confidence. Because like I mentioned, there might have been this feeling of possibility or of choice previous to you, where it was almost like I had to figure out what I was like supposed to do, or you maybe felt yeah, just a little confused, or there were a lot of messages coming in, like especially from the people in your life about what you should be doing. But I feel like once you've started on this path, it really gives you a clear way of seeing ahead, where it almost takes the burden off a little bit. Like it's scary in some ways, because I think now you're realizing the trials that you'll have to face and how this might actually require a lot more strength than you would have expected. But it is also this confidence of understanding that the path has been made clear to you, so you don't really need to worry too much about maps or like getting a compass and finding your way. Like that has kind of fallen away, but now you're in the stage of like actually treading the path and fighting your battles. All right, let's draw one more card to close out this reading. Ooh, the Hermit. Okay, so I feel like people are really perceiving you as the loner type right now, and this could honestly be true for you. Like maybe you've been spending a lot of time on your own and maybe being a little bit of a recluse from society. And I think that maybe some people might see this as a detriment, and again, like other people might see this as their ambition, where maybe people who were in your life previously might see this as a bad thing because they might think that you are isolating yourself from society or like pushing people away. But I think that the new people who are starting to see you in this energy are applauding you in a sense, because I think maybe like yourself, they have also been in this kind of hermit energy of understanding that you don't really need anything external to yourself. Like, no one is going to come and save you, right? And I feel like this hermit is like, if you see the light that is over this hanged man's head, and then we also have the hermit with his lantern, it's this feeling of an inner guiding light that you already have, and being able to strengthen this light is something that you need to do in isolation. So I feel like if you have a strong feeling of judgment around you, of like not wanting to be perceived as a hermit, not wanting to be perceived as someone who keeps to themselves, I think it's time to release that energy, because it's actually a really strong, beneficial energy to work on your sense of self and your own stability and your convictions and your own progress. And it is, again, like this preparation energy is really what I'm getting from it. Again, it's like sort of gathering all your materials and everything you'll need before you head off onto this path, where it's almost like, yeah, the hermit, I imagine, lives in his cabin that's kind of a little bit isolated, but he has everything he needs in his cabin. It's very self-contained. So maybe you even have been like staying in the house a lot, or maybe you have been like in a location, maybe it doesn't necessarily have to be your own home, but somewhere where you kind of feel like you have it all and you really feel at ease to begin this work. And I also feel like people might perceive you as someone, again, who's like kind of older and wiser. As you can see, like maybe you kind of have this old soul vibe to you, where it's almost like people can see that from talking to you or seeing the way that you talk to others or how you move in the world, that you kind of have this old soul where like they can imagine the previous lifetimes that you've traveled, or this feeling of wisdom that you've picked up that, again, like I mentioned, is like coming from a tradition, coming from all the great minds of history, and you're sort of enveloping that into yourself. And so you're placing more priority on this empowered and nourished self over looking for validation from people in your contemporary immediate environment, where all the wisdom and validation you need comes from this feeling of connection to the human spirit. And your connections with other people are merely a way of strengthening this more and helping others also get to this point. Alright, well, I hope this reading was somewhat helpful to you. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.